The Land Cruiser is arguably the greatest SUV in the world, and this, the latest LC300, claims to be the best ever version of this iconic off-roader. But is it really the case? Well, we have come to our favorite off-road adventure zone in Gurugram, where we will be putting this SUV through its paces. And just to keep it honest, we've also got an 80 series Land Cruiser here from the 90s, because this is considered to be the greatest Land Cruiser ever. So 3 decades on, how much of a leap has a Land Cruiser taken? The LC300 GR-S that you see here is the most well-equipped Land Cruiser ever. Starting from its outer appearance, you have to say that it looks quite menacing. At nearly 5 meters long and 2 meters wide, it's nothing short of a tank on wheels. The massive Toyota grille screams presence, and finished in either black or white, which are the only color options available, the GR-S is your local MLA's wet dream. The LC300 not only proves that Land Cruisers are built to go where others dare not, but it also takes the game further with cutting-edge tech and serious muscle. Inside, you're greeted by a plush cabin, 4-zone climate control, 12.3-inch touchscreen with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, JBL audio system, and rear entertainment screens. The GR-S variant further spices things up with sporty black and red trim. The cabin is practical and ergonomics are spot on, although operation of the touchscreen can be a bit of a stretch at times. And there's one too many buttons and knobs on the dashboard, center console, and even the steering wheel. But then, Land Cruisers aren't just meant to shuttle VIPs around in comfort. They're engineered for serious off-road punishment. With unpainted bumpers, chunky body cladding, and smaller 18-inch wheels as opposed to 20-inch wheels on the regular version, this SUV screams its intent. It packs every tool in the off-road handbook: center, front, and rear diff locks, MTS or multi-terrain select with modes for mud, sand, rock and snow, and crawl control for tackling steep inclines. Its party trick, however, is the e-KDSS suspension, which can lock sway or anti-roll bars on the road to minimize body roll and disconnect them off-road for maximum articulation. Under the hood sits a 3.3-litre twin-turbo V6 diesel engine, good for 304 bhp and a colossal 700 Nm of torque. All of this power and torque is sent to all 4 wheels all the time through a 10-speed automatic gearbox. On top of that, there are also different driving modes. So it depends, you have got comfort, you've got sport, sport plus, so it all alters the steering response, the way this engine and transmission behaves. And that means there are a lot of permutations and combinations to work your way around when you are in a tricky situation. But having said that, today, I don't think it's going to be much of a bother for this LC300, because the off-road course here is pretty intermediate. It's not hardcore, but again, it'll give us a clear differentiator between this modern Land Cruiser and the old 80 series, because this is more about tech and electronics, whereas the other one is raw and mechanical. So let's see how both of these cars behave. Okay, so I'm going to go up this ramp, which is quite steep. And the thing is, I've not engaged anything. It's still in 4 high. So nothing is engaged apart from hill descent control, because to come down from that ramp, I need that control. Okay, let's turn the crawl feature on. It's in auto mode. The MTS is in auto mode. I can see nothing. I'm pointing towards the sky. I can see clouds. And I can't see anything now. Okay, this is a little tricky. So I'm right now stuck in a very tricky situation, but no worries. I've got cameras all around. So I'll just turn it on, and now I can see the track ahead, although it is a little tricky because it shows me the track. Yes, I have to keep pointing at the front. Not bad. Well, that is quite steep.
Well, yes, that's the advantage of all these modern gizmos. So it looked tricky, but I used absolutely nothing. It's just that as a driver, you have to trust the system fully. But overall, I have to say it was just a cakewalk for this LC300. Okay, so the next obstacle we have is the cross axle. So this is where we are going to check the articulation of the LC300. Now in here, again, everything is in default setting. I've not touched anything. I've not changed the modes. So I'm still in 4H. So let's see if this can do it in 4H. I think it can, but this looks a bit tricky to me. So let's find out. So I've got my spotter here and I'm going for it. Okay, so I'm stuck right now. So let's step out and see where the problem lies. Okay, so this right here is a classic case of cross axle. So what has happened here is this wheel, as you can see, has got no traction, but the rear one has got traction. So again, if you come around this side, you'll see we've got traction on this wheel, and the rear wheel is going to go airborne very soon.
So why did the LC300 get stuck? Two reasons. I was being too cautious, carrying little momentum, and the electronics were cutting power instead of sending it to the wheels with grip. Now sure, at this point you can fiddle with its multiple diff locks and work your way around. But the simplest fix is switching to 4-wheel drive low and letting the cruiser do its thing.
So what I'm going to do right now is go on a flat surface, engage 4 low, and then we'll get going again. Let's see if we can go over this obstacle. Okay, so we are ready to go again, and this time I'm going to push this button and engage 4 low. It shows it right there. VSC turned off, that means traction control is turned off. Pre-collision brake system is also turned off, which is the ADAS. So it was just a matter of getting right amounts of power, and of course 4-wheel drive low worked. I didn't use any differential locker right now, and that looked tricky to me, but again, for this car it didn't break a sweat. So next up we are going to do the articulation test, and of course I can think this is easy peasy for the Land Cruiser, but again the ruts here are much deeper. And it also depends on your confidence, because when the car starts moving, you really have to trust the systems, trust the off-road capability of this SUV. Again, I'm in just 4 low, no differential lockers. Feel the car moving. What I also like is the steering, because it feels quite precise. And these cameras, they also help. Okay. Okay, my spotter is telling me that I have to carry some more momentum. I'm going back again, keeping the wheel straight. it's the momentum that worked. But yeah, this was not as easy as I expected. And you also have to take care of the clearance because this is a long SUV. So I think I was about to scrape the front underside, but then all's well because we have made through this obstacle. Next one, we have the Seesaw. But before we do that, I think it's time to get into the Series 80, which is all mechanical, like I mentioned. And I'm going to drive that through all the obstacles that I've done till now. And then in the end, we'll do the Seesaw test. But yeah, let's see how it compares with the old mechanical Series 80.
The 80 series was designed and engineered during what many believe was the Land Cruiser's golden era. An era that was defined by over-engineering, toughness and bulletproof reliability. The 80 series was the first iteration of the Land Cruiser that moved the game forward for the brand by stepping into the world of luxury as compared to its crude and rugged forefathers. It bridged the gap between old school and modern at that time. So, while it retained the solid front and rear axles of the outgoing 60 series, it dished the leaf spring for more advanced coil springs, making it both comfortable and more capable on all kinds of terrain. What's more, it was the last Land Cruiser to feature solid axles. Every Land Cruiser since then, except the 105 in some markets, has featured independent suspension, including the current LC300. Part-in options mainly included 6-cylinder 4.5-litre petrol and 4.2-litre naturally aspirated and turbo diesel engines. Now the Series 80 you see here is a prized possession of our editor and big boss Dhruv Bell, and he was kind or rather mad enough to trust us for an off-road test. Now Dhruv has made a couple of modifications to his car, including putting Bilstein B6 shocks on all four corners along with an old man EMU steering damper, and there's also a Bala end can to produce a slightly throatier exhaust note. And it also has an aftermarket touchscreen with Apple CarPlay. The engine is bone stock, which is a 4.2-litre turbo diesel, and it produces 164 bhp and 361 Nm of torque.
Okay, so first things first, of course, this feels old school and this feels quite old. But in terms of its hardware, I think it's not lacking in any department. Like I've told you before, this is my boss's car, so I don't want to take liberties or I don't want to do something stupid. So I have to be extra careful doing all these off-road bits. But you know what, when yesterday we were discussing about the shoot plan and when he handed over the keys to me, I told him that I'm going to take it easy. I'm not going to push it to its absolute limit. But he told me, you can do whatever you want to because this car is virtually indestructible. His words. So we have got all the permissions in place. But that's the beauty about the 80 series Land Cruiser. It was unbreakable at the time it came. And even now, after 3 decades, it's running absolutely flawlessly. Now, first things first, it is raw, it is mechanical, and the display is analog. And I can't see any modern bit here. And there are just 2 lights, which is for timing belt and the turbo, I suppose. So those are the only things you need to be concerned about in terms of warnings. There are no modes here, no electronic trickery. It's you, your car, and all the mechanical bits. Now the thing is, this is the 1995 HDJ81. So there is the HDJ80, which is left-hand drive, and this is JDM spec. So this is right-hand drive. That's why it's the 81. And it is quite refined for a 30-year-old SUV, I have to tell you that. You know, this SUV, it first came out in 1990. And that was my birth year as well. And I think I have more creaks in my bone than this Land Cruiser because the ride is actually acceptable. Everything works here. You have less buttons than you have in the new LC300, and while it does look and feel old school, inside here you've got all the amenities you'll need in your modern day SUV. You've got power windows, you've got electrically adjustable mirrors, so imagine that in 1990s. So yes, this was a truly game-changing SUV, and I can see what has earned it its reputation of being the best Land Cruiser because everything in here is in perfect nick and it works flawlessly. But now let's get to the point because we are here to test its off-road capabilities. So I'm going to run it through the same off-road test that we just did with the LC300. So first of all, I'm going to go up that same incline, which was quite steep. In the LC300, it was quite tricky. In this, I'm thinking it is going to be even trickier. So this is again a permanent four-wheel drive system. So that means power is going to all four wheels all the time. So it has got this button right here, which is written H4. So this is for central locking differential. There are no front and rear locking differentials. They were optional in certain markets, but this particular version isn't equipped with that.
Now, the 80 series is a mechanical beast in the true sense. To engage four-wheel drive, you have to lock the wheel hubs, otherwise the front wheels will just freewheel. Then, if you want to switch to four-wheel drive low, you have to muscle the transfer case gear lever into 4L. And unlike the 300, the central diff is automatically locked in the 80 series as soon as you switch to four-wheel drive low. In 4 high, you can engage or disengage the central diff using the button on the dash.
Now, the other thing is, of course, there are no cameras, there are no electronics here to help me do this off-roading bits. And more importantly, it is a manual transmission version. So I have to feather the clutch, the throttle, everything perfectly. Everything has to be in sync to make progress. And I think that's going to be tricky in this car because, yeah, I'm not used to old school off-roaders. And this is like going back to school, going back to the basics. In this, I think it won't do it in 4 high, but let's see, let's give it a try and then we'll roll back if it doesn't do that. Okay, so we are all set. It's in four-wheel drive right now, 4H, and the hubs are locked. I've got my spotter. I have to carry a little more momentum to go up. Well, no, it won't go. It won't go because I could feel it was about to stall. It is quite steep in the middle, and yeah, you have to be in 4 low for sure. Okay, so back in neutral and four-wheel drive, it shows in there. Let's try it one more time. It has got a steering damper, and the steering is quite precise, and actually it doesn't feel vague on the road. But in these conditions, it does tend to move a bit and it does feel a little vague, especially compared to the LC300.
After carefully navigating my way out of the incline test, I put the 80 through the same obstacles as the 300. On the cross-axle course, the 80 sailed through, though inside it felt a lot more dramatic with plenty of side-to-side sway. Not to mention, the driver's seat in the old LC doesn't offer much in terms of side support. In the articulation test, the deep ruts and heavy body movements made things even trickier. I got stuck a couple of times. I was close to stalling the car as well, but with a firmer right foot and a bit more commitment, the old cruiser revealed its true off-road magic.
Okay, we are through. More or less the same as it happened in the LC. It was a little tricky because of the visibility, and of course the steering, like I said, it is quite tricky because you have to follow the track, you have to keep the wheel straight. And I was keeping the wheel straight, I was trying to, but I think there is that little bit of vagueness. So the steering, it has that sort of play. So that was the only tricky part. But yeah, like I said, you have to be really precise with your inputs. But again, I have to say that this is sort of more fun and more challenging because you need to have some sort of skills to do these off-roading bits, especially the feathering of the clutch, the throttle modulation, all of that you have to do. And this car is doing it absolutely perfectly, but it still demands some sort of skills on the driver's part. And that's what I like. For this also, it's a walk in the park. But yeah, this is a little more physical and a little more enjoyable for sure. So we have spent the whole day off-roading at ORAZ today, and I have to say we tried our best to get these cars stuck. In the morning it was quite slushy, it was raining, but to no avail. Well, these cars, they can just glide over everything and they just flatten all the surfaces. Again, there's one last bit left, which is the Seesaw. So that's our last obstacle for the day. The spotter is ready, and a little bit of a jolt, we are in. Put out the clutch. Wow, that was a big shock. Well, I could feel the entire car shake. And even though it has got all new suspension bits, the suspension has been overhauled. But yeah, that was a big jolt. Sorry, boss. But I have to say that it did it without anything. Again, the tricky part was when you go at the top, you have to be really careful with your throttle inputs. Seesaw time for the LC300. I think this is going to be very easy peasy for the LC. Again, I'm still in 4 high, so let's see if it can do it in 4 high. Now the biggest difference I'm expecting is in terms of its shock absorption. It's still in 4 high. Well, yes, I didn't feel a thing. Of course, there's a big noise, but inside here, there's nothing that I felt. And that's the key difference between an LC300 and a Series 80 Land Cruiser. Because in terms of comfort is where it has taken the game forward. It is remarkably more comfortable. Even on the road, it drives really well, it handles really well. And I think that is, like I said, the key difference between a modern day Land Cruiser and the old generation Land Cruiser. Now, of course, the thing is, that is more enjoyable to me because it kind of challenges me, or it wants me to bring my A game. And I also feel anxious in that car because if you are someone who has not done off-roading all your life, well, that is a more enjoyable car because that is more thrilling in a way. As for this, well, you feel like the king of the road or king of off-road because there's absolutely nothing that this thing can't do. Ultimately, if you are an off-road enthusiast who wants raw and unadulterated Land Cruiser experience, well, the Series 80 is still the king of the hill. But that's not to say that the LC300 falls short. In fact, it is a more complete, a more rounded Land Cruiser between the two of these. And it also builds on the legacy of its forefathers, while it has also moved on with times. So while the Series 80 may continue to be the peak of the Land Cruiser family, it is the LC300 which is the best ever Land Cruiser, for it is most complete in all departments.